Happy New Year, everyone. Wishing you a fantastic time in 2024. Well, in today's show, I'm going to be sharing some insights from the cosmic clock as it continues to tick as we leave 2023 and move into 2024. In today's show, I'll be sharing highlights around the planets and their movements through January 2024. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Bybreen and I help baby boomers reinvent themselves psychologically, practically, and technically so they can thrive in their third act of life. So here we are, the last day of December 2023. And there are a number of planets that are changing signs and moving around, particularly our personal planets, which comprises of the sun, the moon. Well, the moon always changes about 2.5 days. But it's the sun, it's the moon, it's Venus, it's Mars, and it's Mercury. So they're all changing signs. And the context of what's happening in January is actually being set and concretized. That's quite a good word for this planet, which is Saturn. Now, Saturn is the chart ruler, and there are lots of movements in the signs of Saturn. So, for example, we have Venus, we have Mars, and we have Mercury currently in Sagittarius, literally over the last day or so into the early days of January 2024. And they will be moving into Capricorn, which is the first Saturn rule sign. And then we have the Sun, which is currently in Capricorn, and Pluto, which is currently in Capricorn. They're both going to be moving to the second Saturn rule sign, which is Aquarius, around about the 20th of January. And then we have Saturn itself, and it's currently in Pisces. So we have this triumvirate of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces that are all dominated by Saturn, and hence why the context of the change of planets during January are being shaped and guided. Now, we're in winter, so there's this sense of slowing down, and that's what Saturn contributes to our lives. Saturn, on the one hand, can be seen as the disciplinarian, where we contract and where we shrink, and where there's a sense of fear that's underlining the bravado that might be projected out into the world, because Saturn through Capricorn, for example, is very me-centered. It's about, I want to be seen, I want to be respected, and I want to be at the top of the mountain so that everybody can respect me for what it is that I have to offer to contribute into this world. So it's very me focused. The other sign that Saturn rules, which is Aquarius, is very we focused. And it's interesting that the planets are moving through Saturn rule signs, which is giving all of us the opportunity to think about, where am I me focused and where could I be we focused? And that's an essence of the energy that's calling us. Now, there is this sentiment that we're all familiar with. You can do everything and you can be everything and you can have everything. Now, Saturn is the limitation that's between the personal signs. Then we have Jupiter, Saturn. Then we have the transpersonal signs, which is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And so Saturn acts like a barrier and a border. On the one hand, there's this striving to the top of the mountain. And on the other hand, Saturn gives us our limitations. Whatever we may dream about, whatever we may desire, Saturn says, well, if you really want it, you're going to have to work for it. Do you have the chops? And it's not about what you think you're good at. It's actually about their demonstrable proof about what it is that you say you're good at and what it is that you think you're an authority for. So that's on the one hand, we've got this limitation, we've got this contraction. Then the transpersonal planets gives us this element of expansion beyond our ego, beyond the material world. And who could we become? When we're dealing with Neptune, it's about the higher mind, it's about being ethereal as well as spiritual, and it's about the collective. When we're looking at Uranus, how can the collective actually benefit from our iconoclastic ideas and our innovations. And Pluto says, now it's time to cut through the crap. We have all these masks and veneers, but Pluto wants each and every one of us to be plunging deep down into what could be unearthed. Where are the gems? Where are the jewels? Where are the pearls that lie in each of our lives? And so we've got this dichotomy. And the dichotomy is showing itself through this January set of planets, because as I identified, we've got the 5 personal planets that literally are moving through the Saturn signs. And then we have Pluto, which will be conjuncting the Sun around the 20th of January, and they're moving into Aquarius. So it's really heavily Saturnian. And with Saturn being in Pisces, currently it's going to be there for at least the next 2.5 years. What we're equally having is this sense of, we have the Lord of time and karma being Saturn in the sign of karma. So we've got sort of juxtapositions going on here. So there's this karmic energy that is calling us forward to rise up and to face that, together with the potential to dream into the future, to expand our horizons, to get beyond the ego, which is going to be signified particularly with the Sun conjunct Pluto, and then Pluto's journey for the next 20 years. And then we've got these planets coming through. So that's the context in which we're operating in. And there's so many moving parts that I had to jot some of the dates down. So here we are on the 31st of December. And today, stroke tomorrow, we have the first of the personal planets that's moving, which is Venus. So Venus will be squaring Saturn. So it's at the late degrees of Sagittarius, and it's going to be moving into, now let me give you the date that Venus is going to move into. Venus is moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn on the 14th of December. But before it actually moves, it's forming a square with Saturn, because Saturn is currently in Pisces. And then we have this positioning of Venus in Sagittarius. So there's a square of mutable energy. Now, when Saturn comes into contact with Venus there, and it's because it's a square, there's a limitation. What Saturn is showing here is this sense of, where are you feeling underconfident? Where are you feeling constrained? Where are you feeling limited? Where are you feeling nervous or fearful when it comes to the concept of love, self-love, the sharing of love, and the value that you contribute into the world? Interestingly, because the square between Venus as well as Saturn are taking place in Jupiter-ruled signs. So Venus is currently in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, and Saturn is in Pisces, and Jupiter was the first ruler of it. So we have this sense of wanting, Jupiter is sort of saying it's time to expand. But then we've got Saturn that's saying it's contraction. Saturn is shining the light on your own limitations. What does it mean to care for myself? What it means to love myself? What it means to share love with others? Is there somebody that you're hesitant or you're cautious or you're nervous around in terms of the sharing of this energy? And so what can happen is that you might have the desires of love or, heartfelt feelings, but the square, it's an internal tension whereby it's start, should I not? I'm not sure. So there's a hesitancy. Now, because the square is an internal connection, it's, what are you going to do to begin to rise above your sense of nervousness in order to share love, in order for you to show up with your intrinsic value in terms of who you are as a person? It's Sagittarius. Sagittarius is expansive. Sagittarius is about being in the world, and that could be being in the world in your mind, but with Venus, there's a visibility to it. how we're showing up in the world. So, for example, in my own life, just yesterday, I've been presented with an opportunity to teach beyond the UK in person. And it's a really interesting opportunity that has arisen, but it speaks very much to this Sagittarian and Venusian quality, because Venus is about the contribution that we can make. Sagittarius is about the world, and this opportunity that's been presented to me, that actually the closing date is today, of teaching and sharing, expanding myself and my knowledge in the world. And Saturn, with the square to Venus in Pisces, is equally about the world. And Saturn is saying, okay, where are you the authority? Are you doubting yourself in any way? And the same applies to each and every one of you. But where there's a congruence, you might be feeling an element of tension. But the energy is saying, how can you get beyond yourself in order to be expansive? So that's the first thing that's going on through the Saturn signs. And Saturn actually hates being in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is about expansion and Saturn's about contraction. You know, be prudent, be aware, be cautious, make sure you dot those I's and cross those T's. That's what Saturn is about. But on the other hand, Saturn is saying, listen, we have life lessons to learn. Nobody should feel that they can go through life without being touched by life in any way, shape, or form. So prove that you've got the chops. That's what this signature is suggesting. And then when we look at it from a love principle, how can you begin to honor who you are, about what the concept of love looks like and feels like to you? So that's literally what's happening. So we've got this transition that's going through Saturnian signs, and then we've got Venus. Venus is saying, come on, we can do this. This is about great value. Stop doubting yourself. Yeah. So that's the first one. I need to put my glasses on for the second one because I can't see the date. So we have this sense of Venus. And then we are moving to Mars. So on the 5th of January, Mars moves from Capricorn moves from Sagittarius into Capricorn. So it's the same energy that I've just suggested. It's currently in Sagittarius, but it's moving into Capricorn. Now, when Mars moves into Capricorn, this is a very powerful positioning for Mars. Why? Because Mars and Capricorn, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, which means that it shows its most potency. It's the difference between where you live, like I live in this home, and having a holiday home. And so when a planet is exalted, it's like going to your holiday home. So you don't really have to try. It's just, this is what you exude. And we're dealing with two power signs. We've got Mars, which rules Aries, being exalted in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So this is about efficiency. This is about potency. This is about power. This is about getting it done. Gone are the days I coulda, woulda, shoulda, gonna. Mars in Capricorn has no interest in that. This is about, if you say you've got the chops, hit the ground running and get on with it, because no one's interested. Mars is about leadership. Mars rules Aries. And so as it goes into, it's potent. So what are the ideas that you've been nursing or nurturing? Now is the time to take action, because Mars moves into the sign that is about kudos, gravitas. This is a wonderful signature about gravitas. You've got to be careful, though, because when Mars is in Capricorn, and with its level of laser focus and efficiency, you could be coming across as, you're going to steamroll your way to get to the top. This is about pursuance, and this is about ambition, and this is about, I can do this. Because later on, what we have is Mars actually squaring the North Node in Aries. Now, the contradiction here, or the tension here, is a square again. So it's an internal feeling. On the one hand, because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, but it also rules Aries. And so we've got these two powerhouses, which are cardinal signs, signs about taking action. Now, Mars being the natural ruler of Aries, and the North Node is there, and the North Node is about where can we show up and lead. What you've got to be careful of here is that you are not out of tune with what's going on in your environment. Leadership, yes, but what's going on in your environment. So the square is asking you to read the room. Who's in the room? What's the energy of the room? Because Aries can be like, I don't care what's going on out there. This is about me, myself, and I. But with the North Node there, that's encouraging everybody to stand up and be counted. And particularly when the Sun and Pluto move into Aquarius, it's about being cognizant of the me, I, through to the we. So don't be a bull in a china shop. What you can do is understand what laser focus is, understand what working may be hard. That word is, I don't know about the thing about working hard. There are connotations. You've got to be really working hard to the bone in order to get X, Y, and Z. And maybe it isn't about working hard. Maybe it's more about what are the ideas that you have that may resonate and touch people out there. Yeah. And the people out there could be your small circle of friends through to being an international speaker or public, figure or president, prime minister, etc. It is about how are you now beginning to enroll people in the vision of what it is that you have in your mind's eye. So with this movement of Mars into Capricorn, and then it's going to be squaring the North Node, it's time for you to just get a bit more conscious, pause, but be really clear about what your plan of execution is and step forward and do that. What's also very interesting with the Saturn ruled signs, so we've got the Earth Saturn of Capricorn, and then we have the air of Capricorn. So what we have is we have a cardinal with Capricorn. Come on, we've got to take action, but you must have gravitas with it. And then we have the air of Capricorn, which is fixed. So the ideas that you may have, and you've got Mars in Capricorn, it's come on, it's time for execution. But it is about the balancing of, you might initiate something which is very Martian, very Capricornian, I've got to prove that I can do all of this. But don't get burnt out. You might have trillions of ideas and you might be the person who leads. What's good about what's happening with this cosmic clock and the way it's playing out is that Saturn, the Saturn ruled signs of Aquarius, is asking you to just, okay, let's take that idea and now let's ground it. Let's ground the idea so we can actually turn it into something. With Pluto and the Sun moving into Aquarius around the 20th of January, it's going to kickstart even more so, because Pluto is about, we need to plummet and we need to unearth. And by unearthing and finding the gems and the stones and the elixir, yeah, how do we turn things? We've got all these different moving parts, but how do we bring them together in a way that what was initiated can be stabilized, built upon, and then developed further? So that's what we have with Mars's position as Mars moves into Capricorn. So I need my glasses for this one, just in terms of the dates. Then we have Mercury. Mercury will leave Sagittarius and move into Capricorn again. So you can see we're having this trifecta impact and effect of, Saturn and Capricorn is really being brought to life. So Mercury leaves leaves Sagittarius and goes into Capricorn on the 14th of January. So here we've got Mercury So Mercury obviously is mercurial. Mercury is about business. Mercury is about getting your strategy, getting your plan of action together, and how are you going to execute it? It's in an earth sign. It will be moving into an earth sign. So it's about the grounding effect of these ideas that you may have been germinating for the last, X period of time. Now, it's traveling the path of Mars. Let's get the plan of action implemented. But then just think about it, knowing this is coming. What is your plan of action? What have you been thinking about? What's the next sequential steps that can move you from point A through to point B? Yeah. Have you dotted the I's and crossed the T's? Where's the data? It's all fair and well. Whereas like Mercury in Aquarius is, a really a kind of what's the word? It's the you are theoretical. You are it's academic thinking, but it's also about really being fluid with your thoughts. But they really, you might have the spark of an idea, very uranium, which rules Aquarius. That is so enlightening. It can literally change the course of whatever the industry sector that you're in. But before you can get to that, Mercury going through Capricorn is saying, okay, become the strategist that understands the different moving pieces of the chessboard. And so therefore you can go on to implement it. So we have, it's traveling along the same path. Venus has gone through it, and then we've got Mars, and then we have Mercury. Then in around the 11th of January, we have this new moon in Capricorn. Again, the echo is there. So when you have the moon in Capricorn, there can be a level of holding back emotionally. There could be a reticence about expressing oneself. And then when the expression comes, it's a case of, you could come across as being aloof, a little bit unsure of yourself, being very steady and cautious before you commit to anything. It's about understanding, well, what do I really feel about this? But, the moon in Capricorn is in detriment because it's opposite the sign that it rules, which is Cancer. And Cancer, the crab, has this wonderful carapace that likes to snuggle down and, be in there ruminating of memories of the past, and also family and future and nourishment. Whereas that emotional softness, for example, gets translated into an earth sign. So there's a rigidity about the expression of yourself. But also, tapping into, it may be in detriment, but tapping into this sense of we still have feelings as the energies of the planets keep traversing. We still have feelings, but how are we engage in them? Is it the opportunity because it's, Mars has gone through there and it wants to go, 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 go. Whereas the moon going through there is like, yes, you can go, but just think about what impact these actions may have on other people. The moon in Capricorn, steady, take your time, take it easy, but we're going to get there. We have to think about it a bit. We might need to slow down, think of the season we're in. We're in winter, slow down, contemplate. That's very much mercurial, but from the emotional side, does my emotions tie in with what I think? Does my emotions tie in and align with my identity? Does it? Does it not? Very important to pay attention to. Let me put my glasses back on again. So we've done Mars, and we've done Venus, and we have Mercury and the moon. Yes, I've just spoken about the moon. The moon is at 20 degrees, and then the moon actually is making a trine. Once the moon kicks in on the 11th, it's going to make a trine to Uranus. And Uranus is in Taurus. So we've got moon Uranus. So it's a trine. So there's a even though they're both in earth signs, there's a trine. So there's a solidity to the feelings on the one hand, but then you might have feelings that may surprise you about the thing that you're working on. When we're in the midst of doing our things, we're just tunnel vision, but actually Uranus comes along and might reawaken feelings or bring new ideas that you think, yeah, actually that feels really good, and that could tie in with that, and I could connect the dots. So where we have this moon energy mixed with Uranus, usually if it was a square or it was an opposition, there would be tension, there could be volatile feelings. But here, thinking more positively, because they're both grounded in earth, it is a case of actually there's a spark of an idea. Let me sit with the idea. Let me see how it feels. And then I will then think about how I could add that to my plan of action. So that's the moon. And so that happens. The new moon actually happens on the 11th. So we've got that one. Then on the 20th, 21st, we're now leaving the Capricorn side of Saturn and we're moving into the Aquarian side of Saturn. And just as both the Sun and Pluto move in on the same day, 21st of January, into Aquarius, this is a very potent, very, very potent signature. It's because Pluto brings the regenerative aspect to our personalities. It's like the power and the depth of who we are, that could surprise us, because the more that we plunge into ourselves is the more that we could be illuminated. And then with the sun there, it's like, okay, we've got the two powerhouses, even though the sun is in detriment, so to speak, because it's opposite the sign that it rules, which is Leo. But what's happening here is that we've got this connection between the sun and a powerhouse in terms of regenerative ideas, a regeneration of your core identity. Whatever Pluto comes into contact with, it wants to deconstruct. Yeah. Whereas what Jupiter comes into, it wants to expand. So Sun Pluto there's an aspect of your character, there's an aspect of your conscious identity that needs to be deconstructed, broken down in order for you to be in the world from a far more equitable point of view. And because we've got this opposition with the full moon, which is at 5 degrees of Leo on around about the 25th, I think it is. Yes, full moon is on the 25th. So the full moon is opposing the Sun conjunct Pluto. So what does this mean? What we have is this sense of, and then they're both forming a T square with Jupiter. So let's deal with the opposition. We've got Sun Pluto wants to be iconoclastic on some level, but you have to break down first, find the elixir, and then resurrect and be the phoenix that flies and rises, and taking this really transformational perspective that can benefit the collective. That's very powerful. But the full moon, which is happening at 5 degrees of Leo, is challenging these two planets, because in order to be equitable and in order to be far more inclusive and collective, you have to let go of aspects of your core identity and your feelings attached to your ego, because the ego keeps you in I, whereas the Sun Pluto wants to bring us to we. So that's a tension point. Are you prepared? Are you grown up enough? Are you ready to let go of those idiosyncrasies that bring you into a state of idiocy and stupidity and arrogance? Are you ready to regenerate all of that? Because if you are, then that's about liberation. Pluto's saying, this is fantastic. Let's dive in. Let's unearth. Where are those lies that need to be brought to the surface? It's the truth teller. But you have to let go of aspects of your core personality that's attached to the ego, because when we're dealing with the moon is the underbelly of the conscious identity. And so is there an alignment between this new identity that you say you want and the releasing of old aspects of you that are holding you back? That's what you're dealing with when you're looking at the opposition. Now that you have the Jupiter T-squaring this, because Jupiter is in Taurus, again, there's a groundedness, there's an expansion of whatever Jupiter touches. But at the same time, Jupiter wants you to use your wisdom in a way that then can be turned into something. So the elixir becomes something. How wise are you? Jupiter is saying, are you wise? Where's your moral compass? Are you ethical? Are you philosophical? Is there a set of values? Because it's in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. There's a set of values going on here. What are they? How do they underpin the person that you are? And that's the tension point between this opposition of the Sun, Pluto opposing the new moon, the full moon, both squaring Jupiter. And if one can get that together, and then there's going to be this wonderful trine between Venus and Jupiter, because Venus is in Capricorn and Jupiter is in Taurus. Now, this is a wonderful signature because this is about the two benefics coming together. This is about good fortune. This is about bringing your wisdom in a way that can create value for yourself and others. It could be the opportunity to travel, for example, but also when you've got Venus trining, particularly Jupiter, it's another one of these wealth signatures. Venus together with Jupiter, wow. If you're a gambling person, maybe the lottery, maybe shares, there's going to be a big transit later on in 2024 when it's about Jupiter Uranus. I'll talk about that in another show. But actually, here's a signature, and they're in earth signs, and Jupiter is in the money sign of Earth, which is Taurus. So it could be a great time for the manifestations of good things that add value. And it could add money, it could add prestige, it could bring you more visibility. But you have to be able to navigate the ego part of you that still wants to cling on and play silly little games and, is strutting its stuff in Leo. So that T-square between all of them is a way for you to access your wisdom, and it's the higher mind. Jupiter wants all of us to ruminate, and in the rumination, alongside what the transits of the Sun as well as Pluto, this is a way of elevation. How do we begin to elevate ourselves? How do we begin to move in a way whereby we're able to see laterally as well as what's in front of us? Again, it's another signature of read the room. Whatever room you are in, what's your position in the room? It's not about what other people tell you your position is in the room, because I'm certainly not one that pays any attention to what people tell me, but it is more about how do we exercise and how do we bring to the surface our self-awareness of what is going on in any room that we're in. What else is there? Let me see. I think there's one other. What date are we looking at? So we've done the Jupiter, we've done that. Neptune. No, we don't need to do that. Uranus turns direct on the 25th. So Uranus is equally in Taurus, and it's turning direct. And so that means that there's a freeing up of innovative ideas, breaking free. Wherever Uranus is, it's like, where are we the rebel in our own world? But where we the rebel, not the rebel that's just going to cause destruction for the sake of destruction, because it's about being grounded, but where can we rebel against the constrictions that have been either we've placed on ourselves, the mental frameworks that you may have, that you're still laboring under, coulda, woulda, shoulda, gonna, what are people going to say? Will they still love me? Will they still like me? And all the permutations of that. It's about, what do you need to break free of that allows you to tap into your natural resources, and that those natural resources can be turned into something that's valuable not only to yourself but to other people. That's what we have, this Uranus in Taurus, and that goes direct on January the 25th. So I think that's it. I think I've covered all the key themes of what's happening. And when we're looking particularly at Saturn in Pisces, again, we're dealing with the two karma, one in the sign and one in the planet. And Saturn doesn't really like being in Pisces, because Saturn is about solidity and Pisces is water. And so therefore, well, how can Saturn, that likes to be in control of things, deal with something that has fluidity? But what it can be good for is to think about, where can I bring more form and structure to my dreams? Neptune, because we have Pisces, and Neptune is in Pisces. And Pisces it's about dreams, desires, the unconscious, spirituality. Is it that you might need to develop some type of spiritual practice and take that seriously? And that adds to your gravitas, because we're now moving, thank goodness, more into the world where our humanity is we bring our humanity. And the thing is about, how self-aware are we as we're moving through the world? But where you've got Saturn likes tangible things, concrete things. And Neptune, it's a bit wishy-washy. That's one description. But also Neptune is about, Saturn's about, I'm over here, the individual, and Neptune is like, there's no you over there. There's us together. And so where do you need to be removing boundaries or barriers that help you to lessen your fears and your anxieties around what you think other people may or may not do to you, that then allows you to release yourself, to see yourself beyond the kind of constricted form that Saturn in its negative connotation can be holding you back. Actually, Saturn in a water sign, particularly Pisces, gives us the opportunities to bring form to our dreams. But in order to turn them into a reality, you've got to roll up your sleeves and do your thing. And how can you bring more gentleness into the world? How can you look at your fellow man and woman and think about, through who I am, wherever you are, there's no job title. Each and every one of us has deep intrinsic value. How can I marry the intrinsic value that I've unearthed in a way that's going to help lighten the load, lighten the burdens, bring empathy into the world, so that you move from the very much Saturnian Capricorn, I'm over here, thank you very much, doing my thing. Can't you see? I'm high-fiving myself. Great. I'm the mountain goat. I've got to the top of the mountain and you will respect me. Lessening all of that, you go through Saturn in Aquarius, which is like, yeah, I've got some chops. That's lovely. But everybody else has got some chops. Isn't that great? We can be shining the light together. And then it's about, maybe there are a swathe or just a whole range of communities and people who haven't quite tapped into the power of who they are. And how can you shine your light in order to help them see that they have light that they can shine into the world. So there we have it. There we have it. I think I've covered everything and got the dates right, got the dates together. I think I've done it. Yeah, we've covered Pluto, We've done all of that. I would love to hear what's your experience of these planets, and what are your hopes for January 2024? What plans of actions do you have in place? I can see that there are some lovely comments. Let me just move over here. Let me just have a look here. Being able to, hold on. Thank you very much. I'm going to show that one. Sole purpose. Hold on. Has it come on the screen? I think it has. Good lecture. Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to show another one. Really appreciate that. Glad that you can take things away and it's helping you. I'm rewinding. Okay. Rewind you will. And then we have, hold on. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Aquarius ascendant. You've got an Aquarius ascendant. If you have an Aquarius ascendant, well, you've got the sun and you've got Pluto coming through. So transformational times lay ahead for you. So there, thank you for all of your comments. Really value and appreciate everyone that shows up, or whether they watch it on replay. If you watch it on replay, put replay. And I really look forward to continuing to build our community here. As you know, my whole focus is on baby boomers and helping them reinvent themselves. And obviously, this material touches other generations as well. If you know of other baby boomers who are looking to reinvent themselves, and astrology is one of my core pillars of content, I'm building out this channel like a magazine style channel, hence why I mix my topics over the last few weeks and maybe for the next 2 weeks, because there are so kind of profound astrological changes that are taking place. Why I've just done a sort of run of astrology week after week, because Pluto, as it's moving towards its transition into Aquarius on January the 21st, what I'm going to do, maybe I'll split it over the next 2 live streams, is how it's going to affect as Pluto moves through the houses. As Pluto moves through the houses, maybe I'll do the first 6 and then the second 6, and then we have Pluto into Aquarius. But as I say, I am mixing my content, have been doing that over the last year. So there's technology, there's the future of work, there's travel, there are practical things, maybe pension, and up-to-date information that touches potentially the lives of baby boomers. And what I'm doing is sharing that. And so therefore you can utilize that information in a way that may help for you to reinvent yourself. So thank you so much for all of your support, all of your guidance along the way. Wishing you a fantastic 2024, and I will see you next Sunday for another live stream. And I may be introducing posting another time during the week, but I'm not quite sure whether I'll do it this week or next week. But the idea is to bring you more content that is mixed in with the pillar of astrology and all the other pillars I've mentioned. All right, stay well, have a fantastic new year, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.